Nikola Jokic, though, MVP candidate, probably going to be the MVP right now if things shake out. He has the narrative on his side. He has the health on his side right now with Kevin Durant being hurt, with James Harden being hurt, with a lot of guys being hurt right now that would otherwise be MVPs. So, Nikola Jokic, what have you seen from him that you haven't seen from other seasons, man? What have we been missing on Jokic, and how has he improved this season?
That's a tough question, Logan, because I'm sure he's gotten better across the board, but I want to say that to my naked eye, and again, I don't watch Denver every night, it looks like he's doing what he's always done. Now, I mean, I know he's improved. Don't get me wrong, but it doesn't look like he's been in this conversation. It might just have been slept on because he's always been dope. He's always filled up a stat sheet. Let me just go through, you told the numbers. He is top 15 in scoring. He's 8th at 26 and change. Mm-hmm. Rebounding, he's 8th at 10.9 a game, roughly 11. 5th in assists. 11th in field goal percentage of 57%. He is number 1 in overall efficiency in the NBA. These are this is staggering numbers for a big dog. You're talking about a big who's 8th in rebounding and 5th in damn assists and scores 26 a game, Logan. And you talked about it. He's played 51 of 51 games for the Nuggets. Here's the deal with Nikola for me. The injuries to other people, while no one hopes for them, they certainly are going to help his case for the MVP, right? Because, LeBron went down, Joel Embiid went down, Harden went down.
KD went down. He had some
KD
MVPs,
went down. Giannis is still lingering, but I don't think you're going to give Giannis the MVP 3 years in a row, but statistically, he's still lingering. I need Denver to just keep winning, because right now they're at, something in 33 and 18, right? Which puts them in 4th in the West, I think? Let me look at it. 4th in the West, I think. That's the last component of this for me. They cannot slip any lower than that. It doesn't. No. I mean, I'm not suggesting they will, because the addition of Aaron Gordon, which I'm sure we'll get to, has been dope for them. But they can't slip, because that's the last component that's the last ingredient in the recipe for MVPdom for me.
I would disagree with you. Because one, he has the narrative on his side. The narrative always works, just like Steve Nash in 2006 over Kobe Bryant. I'm just saying.
That's
now. So he has the narrative on his side, and I'm looking at the teams.
Wait. Let's go ahead and just clip this. Let's clip this right here. You're saying that Steve Nash won the MVP in 06 based on narrative alone. The narrative being on his side is why Steve Nash won the MVP over Kobe Bryant.
We can move on. I said I said what I said, and I'm not really open for debate at this point, just because I've put this in my head. And that's just what it is. You can bring all the numbers or whatever. You'll probably make a compelling case for Steve Nash.
I'm not going to do that, because I don't know them. I'm just...
however, you rolling with your guns, and I'm rolling with mines.
Narrative is a thing. I can agree. It's fair. It's fair. I would disagree. But narrative is a thing. I can give you that.
I say all that to say, the teams above them currently right now don't have a legitimate MVP candidate right now. You're talking about the Clippers, who are immediately above them. You're not going to say Kawhi is going to win the MVP. Phoenix Suns. You're not going to say Devin Booker or Chris Paul are in the MVP conversation, will you? Probably not. The number 1 team, the Utah Jazz. Are you going to say Rudy Gobert's MVP? No. Are you going to say Donovan Mitchell's an MVP candidate? Not necessarily. So I think with the narrative being on his side, I think that he is a front runner for the MVP. I think that started also, and you guys can correct me if I'm wrong. Real ones out there, correct me if I'm wrong. I think I start seeing a shift in that. When you talk about when Russ won it, when he had all the triple doubles, he had the narrative on his side. I think they were a 7-8 seed. They were, at the very least, they were at the bottom of the postseason race, and so
it's because they exceeded expectations. That's what the narrative was. I'm agreeing with you, but if they slip, then you're not exceeding expectations if you're Denver, because last year you were dope.
Yeah, but again, there's all the other players that you say. I guess we're talking about the Western Conference here. Yeah, I guess so. You're right. I would say you're right.
Well, I think you're right too. I think you're right. Yeah. You're right too. Yeah.
So I think that Jokic is the front runner right now. Now the Nuggets, and I said this when we had Chris Ryan on for the trade deadline podcast, which you guys go check out in hindsight, see how we did. Me and Chris Ryan were talking about if Aaron Gordon, who got traded at the deadline from the Magic, if he will make the Nuggets a championship contender, right? And I think that by and large now he has, because like I said, since the trade deadline, the Nuggets have won 7 straight games. And I want to go to Kevin O'Connor, who we'll get to this in a second, shooting his shot from 3/4 court on Halle Berry. Wasn't expecting that. Now, but what he did was on his quote tweet of Halle Berry, the queen that she is, talked about Aaron Gordon's touches in Orlando versus right now. Now, in Orlando, he had 64 touches per game, 3.4 dribbles per touch, and they had 0.9 points per chance that he had the ball. That was in Orlando. Now, in Denver, he has cut his touches in half, cut his dribbles in half, but now instead of 0.9 points per chance, he has 1.2 points per chance. He has become better with less right now. So what I say all that to say is, how has, in your eyes, Aaron Gordon been great for this team where he has to do less? How has that been for you to see? And do you think that can make them a championship contender, Raja?
Well, it's interesting because I said when he went over there that the two styles that he was coming from were going to be different, and that was going to ultimately, his ability to switch styles midstream was going to ultimately determine the ceiling for Denver, right? Like, if you can go from a system where you have it and you get into some ISOs and you're able to create off the bounce and it's a little slower ball movement, to a system where the ball's flying around and Jokic has it and Murray has it and there's a lot of off-ball movement and Jokic is wheeling and dealing. If you could do that, they're going to have a chance. And if he couldn't, then, that was going to probably be a failed trade for them. What he's done is basically accepted what you were talking about earlier, which is being great in your role. And his role has changed now that he's gotten to Denver, or at least in his mind, his role has changed, right? To a guy who's going to try to tie it all together, meaning I'm not going to be the focal point offensively, and every night I'm not going to get the same amount of touches as I would in Orlando. You pencil in touches for your number 1 and number 2 offensive options. Logan Murdock is going to get 22 shots a night. Sasha is going to get 18 shots a night. Myself, and other peripheral players, we can fluctuate. One night we might shoot 15, one night we might shoot 5. And we got to be okay with that. And then we got to do all the other things around that are going to support you guys in your 22 and 18 shots. And I think he's doing a great job doing that. When I get it, and I make the most of those opportunities. But if I don't get it, I'm going to be boarding. I'm going to be defending. I'm not going to have the ball sticking in my hands to slow this offense down. Like, he's really bought into doing those things for them. And I do think this gets them at least on paper.
On paper.
Yeah, because in the playoffs, all kind of shit happens. You can't predict like what's going to happen in a series. But they are better. They're a step better than they were last year, for sure.
I think that Aaron Gordon is one of those guys, and I equate this to historically like Andre Iguodala, or I think this is a good comparison. One of those guys that started off as maybe we thought he was going to be the franchise guy, didn't work out because Orlando was trying to make Aaron Gordon a franchise guy for years, and he just wasn't that, and that's fine. It's fine. He is an overqualified. He can't. At this team, he's an overqualified role player. And I think that is the perfect opportunity for him because he'll make a good team great. He's not necessarily going to make a bad team good, but he's going to make a good team great in the way that Andre used to with the Warriors back in the day. And I honestly think I think that he can make them a finals candidate. My biggest thing is there's something to be said for being there before. And you know this, the playoffs are a totally different beast than the regular season. It just is. From the energy, from the execution, just from the style of play. I remember talking to a coach and they said, if you think you're out of shape in a regular season game, you won't even be able to last 2 minutes in a postseason game. It's just that rigorous of a change. And that's my only concern because Aaron hasn't been that this Aaron and the Nuggets haven't been finals deep before, right? They haven't gotten to that level. But I think with talent wise, I think that they're right there as a finals candidate. And I don't think they're necessarily beat a full strength Lakers because they just have to prove it to me that they can do it. But on paper, they're right in the conversation.
Yeah, he definitely helps them get into the conversation. I would not rule them out beating a Lakers team if they're firing on all cylinders offensively. I would not pick them to beat them. I'm just saying I wouldn't necessarily rule it out. I think they could beat anybody else in the Western Conference. Like
including the Clippers.
Including the Clippers. I think they could be, they present some real matchup problems. And the benefit of having a guy like Aaron Gordon, who is an overqualified role guy, and I just want to look, I was looking at his plus minus just now from when he's been there, or since he's been in Denver. It's like off the charts, man. Like his plus minus is plus 17, plus 19, plus 12, plus 12, plus 9, plus 2. And in some of those games, he was only getting like nine points. Like he had 13, 6, 14, 24, 9, and 9. That means you're doing a lot of shit right? You know what I mean? You're doing a lot of things correctly. The beauty of having an overqualified role guy on a team like Denver, when the playoffs specifically come into play, is another dude who can get a bucket. Because sometimes in the playoffs, and it's why I argued when everyone told me Golden State didn't need Kevin Durant. I was like, well, need is one thing. Use Kevin Durant. Could they use him? Absolutely. Because it gives them a dude who you could give the ball to when all else fails. And that whole game plan is structured to take away Steph or whatever it is, and he can get you a bucket. And so Aaron Gordon is a bucket. Like if you need a third guy to get buckets, he can do that.